All right. Well, welcome everybody. HubSpot user group. I'm Steve James. I am Creative. We're a HubSpot agency partner since 2010 here in Milwaukee, and we've been part of the community ever since, and love working with everybody in Milwaukee and around the actual globe with people that are HubSpot customers. So today we're just going to go through some quick housekeeping items. We'll kind of go through what's coming up, and then we'll jump right in and let Nick go and talk about Operations Hub. So for some upcoming events, we were just talking with HubSpot with our HUG, all the HUG leaders, and it looks like we'll have the opportunity to go back to live and in-person events. So we'll probably look at that in our Q3 opportunity. Yeah, big round of applause there. Yeah, we'll look like Q3 probably in September, maybe late August. We'll have an event here in Bishop's Woods again, like at our old location that we typically had before. And then we'll decide if maybe we'll do a hybrid or something like that at some point. I know there's a couple HUG campaigns coming up in the summer that'll probably be popping out too. So there's going to be some good stuff there. The other thing to check is just go to events.hubspot.com and you can find other like topical HUG groups. So like video or CMS, all those type of HUGs are out there besides the local ones. And then there's also community. So go to community.hubspot and you're able to see some study groups and other things that tied to that as well. So just want to bring those to attention. And then the last thing is Inbound 22 is going to be a hybrid event. So you can either do it online or you can go obviously to Boston, go in person. So I know we'll have quite a few people on our team out there. It's an amazing event, amazing time. So just wanted to bring that up as well. All right. If anybody's new to the group and have any questions, feel free to email me. It's just steve@streamcreative.com for future events or any ideas, thoughts. I just wanted to kind of get that out of the way, and then we're just going to get going. So we're going to have Nick join us. So Nick is pretty much the go-to-market strategy guy for HubSpot's Operations Hub and CRM. He's worked with the Sales Hub as well as customer success onboarding with clients. He's out of North Carolina. He got out of Boston winters, so he is enjoying nice warm weather all year round, which is not like us here in Milwaukee. But Nick is going to give us an overview of Operations Hub. And in the chat, I know everybody looks like posted kind of their comfort. So I think this will help kind of with this presentation to go over kind of the foundation elements of Operations Hub. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to let Nick take over. Thank you, Nick, for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, I think I did make a pretty good investment coming down here and avoiding winter. I couldn't get used to it. So kudos to you all for being able to somehow survive those winters. But yeah, I'm excited to be here. We're going to talk about Operations Hub today. So mainly an overview of features and use cases and just how Operations Hub can be attached to other hubs to help you grow a little bit better and help you streamline what you're already doing with HubSpot. Kind of got an intro there before, but I work on the product team. Really what I care about is just building a bridge and being the bridge between our product teams that are working on Operations Hub and working on those reporting and automation and integration features and like the rest of the HubSpot world. So that could be HUGs, that's partners, that's our own internal teams. So really like my job is to kind of be that connection between what the product team is building and how it's actually being used in the real world. Kind of mentioned the agenda before, but here's what we'll cover at like a high level. So first, we're going to talk a little bit about positioning and what kinds of problems Operations Hub is built to solve. And then we'll kind of do a deeper dive into the features, some use cases, tips and tricks, best practices. I've budgeted like 15-ish minutes at the end of this presentation for Q&A, but like feel free to chat as we go along, come off camera, ask questions. Like I want to make sure we just get you guys like a couple points on that 1 through 5 scale in terms of your ops hub knowledge before we leave today. So again, feel free to chat or to chime in. Steve, if you wouldn't mind just like shouting out if there are any questions in the chat. I'm
Yep.
on one screen today. I'm dealing with
Absolutely.
some Wi-Fi issues. I'm at like a co-working space. So yeah, if anything comes in, I might not be able to see it, but I'm happy to answer it.
Okay, no problem.
Cool. People ask me all the time, like still, like, what is Operations Hub? Like we're the newest hub. We're just over a year old. Enterprise just launched like 6 or 7 months ago. So like what I tell people when they ask like, hey, what's Ops Hub? I say it's a data and process supercharger. It adds value to all of our other hubs, and it's HubSpot's special sauce. And Yamini actually called us the special sauce a few months ago during an earnings call. I love it. It's an amazing food analogy that she came up with off the cuff. So I'm stealing that. But basically, you layer Ops Hub on top of whatever other hubs you're using, and it's going to help you more efficiently manage how your data moves in and out of HubSpot, and it's going to help you streamline common business processes, specifically automation and reporting that you're likely already doing inside HubSpot. And we built Operations Hub with a couple personas in mind. So of course, like as you can infer from the name, we built Operations Hub with ops professionals, data leaders, data analysts, HubSpot admins in mind, like of course. But it's also built for this other persona that I've been kind of calling like quote unquote the HubSpot person. And this is that person who I imagine is you all, like a lot of you all on the call this morning. Like it's just the person that's the HubSpot champion, the person that's building everything, connecting everything, and fixing everything in HubSpot for their organization. And Ops Hub works for both those personas because like ops isn't always a defined role. Like not every business is going to have an operations manager or like a dedicated ops team. But instead, like we feel and I feel that Operations Hub is instead like this set of systems and responsibilities and process that all businesses have to address to help them fight friction and grow a little bit better. At a high level, those three things, like if we're thinking about like, hey, like if I can take something away from the call, like what should I be thinking about to help myself grow a little bit better with HubSpot? It's these three things at a high level. So platform, process, and perspective kind of frame out our operations hub product strategy. So with platform, we want to get folks thinking about connecting all their data and just getting everybody the info they need to do their jobs in HubSpot every day. So eliminating data silos, integrating all the apps they're using, that kind of thing. The second big thing is process. So once we have all of our data in the right place, once our systems are connected and talking and everything's like going super smoothly, um, how can we make everyone's day to day a little bit easier, a little bit more consistent, and can we look for opportunities to automate processes that are happening or need to happen every day or every week or whatever it might be? And then the third thing is like once we're jamming away with our good process, we've got all of our systems connected, we're generating data internally and from customers. We can, we've got all this stuff in our CRM. How can we look back on that? How can we get some good perspective? And how can we use all of that data to drive business strategy? And this again, like these three P's kind of frame out HubSpot's philosophy about RevOps and operations at a high level, but they also guide our Operations Hub product strategy. Um, we focused on these things because we realized that they're like super hard to manage at times for folks, right? Like even if you're like if you're a dedicated ops professional or a marketing manager, whatever you might be, like you've got other stuff going on, and you like this GIF shows one of my favorite infomercial GIFs. You just feel like you're juggling a ton of stuff, and then one thing's gonna fall, then everything's gonna start falling, and you end up like this guy trying to wash his super old, what looks like Ford Taurus. So it's hard to do that stuff. And don't take my word for it, right? Like just the GIF is funny and whatever, but like the evidence shows that when tools and data get messy and process breaks down, things don't work properly. So here's some stats that we love to share. So over 50% of marketers say that they use 5+ tools every day, and inherently, like that's not an issue, but it could be an issue if those systems and those apps don't talk to each other correctly. On top of that, so we've got a bunch of systems. Our neighbors down the road from HQ in Cambridge at Harvard, they found through a study a few years ago that only 3% of companies' data meets basic data quality standards. So that's terrifying because on the other side of that means that 97% of companies do not have data that meets basic quality standards. So, okay, we've got a lot of systems, we've got bad data, and that leads to this other number here at the end where 75% of companies admit that employees fabricate data to tell the right story. I'm not doing that for this presentation, I promise. I cited my sources in the bottom of the slide here. Um, but it's not great, right? If you don't have connected data, if you don't have clean data, you're just going to be kind of like, you know, taking shots in the dark, basically. So those are the problems that Operations Hub looks to solve, and we look to avoid these results. So we don't want to have a poor customer experience with poorly targeted communication or broken personalization or delays in the sales cycle. We don't want to have our team feel inefficient and busy and just like they're not getting anything done. And we don't want to lose revenue, right? The statistic that we found from Gartner is that enterprises, so like large enterprises like Fortune 500s, lose about $15 million a year due to poor quality data. I don't think that that holds true for the average HubSpot customer. We're a bit smaller than that, right? But suffice it to say that these issues are going to cost you time, they're going to cost you money, and like ideally, Operations Hub can help alleviate some of those issues and again save you time and money. And that's because, like I've been kind of alluding to, we built Operations Hub with those three P's in mind. So we built Operations Hub to solve for common business challenges, and we have features um, that sort of address every piece. So we want to integrate systems to make sure our platform is connected. We want to automate process to make sure that things can run smoothly and folks can do their day-to-day jobs easier and more quickly. And then we have a bunch of reporting tools that allow folks to get better perspective on what's happening across the business. Cool. So then that's like kind of how I'm going to frame out how we talk about the features and how we move into a deep dive around Operations Hub. So I'll kind of break down what features are in each bucket, so platform, process, and perspective, and go from there. And again, feel free to ask questions, chime in, come off mute as we go through this. First thing I'm going to talk about is data sync, and data sync exists in Operations Hub free as well as in Starter. So with Starter, we unlock the ability to map custom properties between HubSpot and over 100 different platforms. But data sync, as you can kind of guess from the name, this is a real-time integration between HubSpot and now I think 107. We have different applications that you can connect to, and this is a no-code integration. You come right into the marketplace. I kind of clipped my screenshot here, but you come into the marketplace, you'd look for a data sync integration, and then you set it up just like a almost like a wizard that steps you through the process, in this case with dynamics. And this is a bidirectional sync. You can have custom sync rules, custom field mappings. We can sync historical data, and we even have some super cool new monitoring tools to help with sync health and troubleshooting and error handling should that pop up. So this is going to help you again, like eliminate data silos, keep your teams in step with one another, and save time on what I call like manual automation. So if you have a system where you're, once a week, I'm exporting all these new contacts from HubSpot in a CSV and importing it into Pipedrive or into Dynamics or something like that. We can avoid that with data sync. So we could sync like MQLs from Marketing Hub over to a third-party CRM when they get on a certain list, when they meet a certain criteria. We could sync billing information over to Zero from Sales Hub if we wanted to make sure we have everything up to date before we send an invoice. Or we could maybe grab contacts that chat in through Intercom. We could map those right back to HubSpot, just to make sure that, again, like our marketing or sales team is in step with what the service team might be doing through Intercom. Any questions on sync before I pop over into Ops Pro and talk automation?
Doesn't look like it. Just from a clarification standpoint, so with Starter, custom properties or anything, like basically anybody wants to create something that's not out of the box within HubSpot, they want to create their own custom property and they match like something that aligns with their ERP or something like that, right? And then that could sync back and forth with the...
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So like we'll be able to map in most cases like first name, last name, of course, email for a
Yep.
contact, for example. But if it's a custom property either in HubSpot or in that other app,
Mhm.
that's when you'd get into Ops Starter.
Perfect.
Cool. Moving into Ops Pro, this is where we start to unlock the really cool stuff. And I love data sync. It's very, very cool. But in my opinion, the automation features are super slick. So these are the features that are going to unlock advanced business process automation, again, with some super cool, sophisticated workflow features. And we've been calling these like programmable automations. You may have heard this phrase being tossed around in like our marketing materials, or you may have seen it online, or even in like some of our knowledge base documentation. But really, it's just this like fancy marketing term that we came up with. My coworker Ari came up with, I think, to describe several super cool automation features in Ops Pro. And these are scheduled workflow triggers, data quality automation, custom code actions, and then webhooks. And we're going to break down each one of those. The first is scheduled workflow triggers, and this is like one of my favorites recently. We launched it kind of quietly back in December, and you may have noticed it if you've built a workflow since then. But we have this new build a recurring workflow, weekly, monthly, or annual cadence. And then you can actually customize a bit further from there. So I think in the example I have here, I've got a weekly workflow that's going to fire off on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 a.m. And then once I set this up, it's a normal workflow. So on my next screen, I will be prompted to set up like an enrollment trigger or like a set of criteria. And then maybe in this case, I think I have my funnel cleanup reminders workflow. So a great use case here would be like every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, if I wanted to look for deals that haven't been modified in the last like day or something like that, and then set up a task for the sales rep to clean up that deal, I could do that. Or same thing for contacts, maybe contacts that haven't been modified or had outreach in the last week. Can we set up a task or, do something with that contact to get them moving through the funnel? um, Kind of talk through some use cases here, but they can help you grow by streamlining any process that has to happen on a set schedule. So if you're thinking to yourself, like, man, this is something that should happen every week, or it has to happen every month, or I need to do this every 2 weeks to get that report in, um, that's where a scheduled trigger can really help out. So think about like sending a weekly email roundup, like either internally or externally. You can do that. We have folks that use these to time like their data cleanup, and we'll talk more about data cleanup in a sec, but you could run a workflow every night that looks through all your new data and cleans it up in the CRM. Weekly task assignment, I kind of touched on that before, but like leads or deals that haven't moved, things like that, we can flag those on a set cadence. And even things like scheduled Slack reminders, like if we want to combine these with other integrations inside workflows, we can do that. But bottom line is that this can help streamline anything that has to happen on a set schedule. Cool. I alluded to it before. Data quality automation is another workflow action, and this, in my opinion, is the unsung hero in Operations Hub. I don't think it gets as much love as it deserves because it's a workflow action. It's a little bit hard to find, but this format data action in workflows allows you to apply a bunch of different actions and modifications to data in the CRM. So a contact comes into a workflow, say, or a deal or a ticket or a custom object even comes into a workflow. And then we can use this format data action to actually change and edit property data associated with that record. So a great example that I've built here is maybe I have a contact workflow that's going to enroll contacts when they submit a form. And as soon as they come in, as soon as they're created in our CRM, what do I want to do? I just want to make sure that this contact, when they submitted my web form, capitalize their own first name and their own last name, maybe even too. So I know if I'm going to send an immediate follow-up email to that person, it's going to look nice and it's going to look professional before it goes out. Or if I have a sales team that's going to enroll that person in a sequence, or I'm going to maybe automatically enroll that person in a sequence with Sales Hub. Um, it's just going to look good and feel good when it goes out. You can do other stuff here too. We can format dates. So if you're working across different geos, maybe in a different country, and you want to make sure dates are standardized, we can also add and subtract values of time. We can concatenate different text fields together. We can do all kinds of stuff here, but just think of this as a way to automatically keep data clean as it's changed or as it's created. So a great way is to eliminate manual cleanup, imports, exports, things like that. Going to pop in and check the chat here. Question from Brian: is there an easy way to normalize all state text, i.e., California becomes CA? That could be a good use case for a custom coded workflow action, which we'll talk about in a sec. The data format action is going to apply stuff like case changes, again, like trimming white space, kind of set things like that. Whereas like California becoming CA is more of like logic based. But I think that would be a good use case for custom code actions that we can talk about here in a minute. Perfect segue, actually. So I appreciate that question. It's well timed, Brian. I want to get this out there in the open. Like, you may have heard about custom code actions in webhooks and heard that they're very technical. They kind of are. I'm not going to lie. They involve code, they involve APIs, they involve endpoints. But it's totally cool if like not everyone knows what they are, how to use them. So give us a +1 in the chat, or like just nod your head if you're on camera or maybe don't want to type. But it's okay if these things aren't super clear to you. We're all in the same boat. I'm not a developer. I wouldn't know how to build one. I know what they are, but I can't code one. That's okay. So I'm going to demystify them a little bit here over the next couple of slides. And really, like, what to know about custom coded workflow actions is, like the name says it all. These are actions within a workflow that allow you to write code in the workflow action and then run code when a record goes through that workflow. So I think I've done a very bad job with this screenshot. I should have changed it, but you can see in the very bottom here, bottom right of the slide, there's a block where you can actually write either JavaScript code that can do pretty much whatever we need to do inside that workflow. So when a contact or a company deal, whatever comes through that workflow, the custom code action can run code that does stuff with that contact or with that CRM record. We built these though to solve for almost everything a standard workflow action or even like a standard workflow itself can't solve for. So more on that in a sec, but just know like high level custom coded actions are essentially a blank check for automation in HubSpot. Webhooks are kind of like the cousin of custom coded workflow actions. These are basically just a way to send or receive or request a bunch of data from another system. So I can either send somebody a letter with a bunch of information in it, or they will send me a letter when I ask them for it with a bunch of information in it. So these are, again, a workflow action. They allow you to send data about a contact or about a CRM record that comes through a workflow, or what's new in the past couple months is I can actually request information about that record from a third party system. So it's basically like if custom code actions are like a phone call that I can have in like real time with somebody and kind of get a lot of information, get a lot of stuff done. Webhooks are like a quick text message or something like that, where I'm just getting one bit of information back and forth between a system. Use cases, though, I think this helps kind of contextualize it. Two big categories of things that custom code actions and webhooks can help you solve for. Number one is automating stuff that just has to happen inside HubSpot. And this would be custom code actions helping out here. And a great example of that would be changing from like CA to California or vice versa. So some sort of process, whether it's data manipulation or a process that has to happen just inside the CRM, that's where custom code actions really stand out. So we could do something like a lead rotation based on like 27 different criteria or something like that. Like I wouldn't want to build that out as a workflow. It might be possible to build maybe a workflow with thousands and thousands of if-then branches, but we don't want to do that. We don't want to advise our customers to do that if we're partners. So custom code actions, you can write the code that would have a bunch of little if statements in there, some conditionals, maybe some loops, things like that, all kinds of different code structure that would just very quickly check a bunch of different parameters on that contact when they come in and assign the lead out. Or it could check against like a table and say, hey, if this record says CA on it, we want to spell that out to California or vice versa. So sort of like a VLOOKUP would work in Excel. We can do things like that. So kind of rambling there, but the first category of things that these two features solve for is automating tricky stuff that has to happen inside HubSpot. The second thing we can do is automate when data has to move in or out of HubSpot. And this can be done with a webhook or custom code, but anytime we need to send data to another system or request data from another system, that's a great use case for either of these two features. So maybe we're looking up the shipping status. When somebody chats in through a bot, we want to say, hey, like, has their thing gotten there yet? Like, what should this bot say back to them? That's a great use case for custom code or for a webhook. Or if maybe, when a contact hits a certain life cycle stage or a deal hits a certain pipeline stage, we want to send all information about that record to another system, like whether it's a CRM or a shipping platform, whatever it might be, ERP, that sort of thing. We can do that very easily with a webhook or in some cases with a custom code action. So um, that's kind of just scratching the surface. I've got a bunch of other use cases at the bottom, but we've built out, and I can share this, we've built out this programmable automation use case library, which is pretty cool. So take a look. I just dropped it in the chat. We're actually collecting use cases for custom code here. So if you guys ever want to submit one, feel free to. There's a call to action button there. But just take a look through that. That actually has some real world examples of how folks have deployed custom code, and you can actually view the code there. We have a GitHub repository where you can check it out. You can grab the code sample, customize it, and even use it in your portal later on. Yeah, and I think I actually answered. I'm looking at the chat now. I answered Brian's second question, so it's perfect timing. He's teeing me up today. I really appreciate it, Brian. I'm going to pause. Any other questions about custom code or webhooks, or how do folks feel about these overall?
Looks like we don't have any questions. So, but just going back to the custom code, that's part of what suite is that? HubSpot Pro? Is that what you have to start with?
Yeah, it's a great question. I didn't call that out well enough. It's an Operations Hub Pro.
Okay.
So anything automation is Ops Pro. Anything reporting will be Enterprise. We'll get there in a sec. But I think like before I talk through this slide, if it's still a little bit gray and fuzzy and you're like, hey, when would I ever use this? Anytime you can't solve for something or automate something that feels like you should be able to automate it in HubSpot, that's when a custom code action is going to help out. So again, we built these to be that feature. Like we can't, A good example would be like when we're thinking about this as a product team, we're like, hey, we can't really build like a lead rotation action that's going to solve for what every single customer asks us for. It's just going to be like people have custom process, they have all kinds of things they need to do. So what can we do? We can build this custom code action instead that lets them build their own process inside that workflow action. So again, it's like a blank check for automation. And we understand too that not everybody can code. And a lot of folks will hesitate to use custom code actions or even learn about custom code actions because they don't have the technical knowledge. But we've done a bunch of work on our end on the go-to-market side to make sure that customers can clear that hurdle. So we do have technical consultants on staff here at HubSpot. You may have worked with them in the past, but we do have specific technical consulting blocks available for Operations Hub. So that's kind of a do it with me service. Maybe you have a developer or you have some experience yourself and you just want someone to bounce ideas off of or take a look at the code and just kind of help you out through the process. We can do that. Of course, our wonderful partners can do it for you. So we have a bunch of partners that are very experienced with both um, these custom code actions as well as just in general with technical HubSpot projects. So they can help out and they are ready and willing to help out. We also have a network of freelancers. So if you just want someone to very quickly come in and write one of these things for you, who knows, or you want to check out something that you've written, maybe you don't want to pay HubSpot for the technical consulting block or whatever it might be. Um, these custom code actions use JavaScript and Python. So those are two very universal languages, kind of like English and Spanish. Like we're not asking for anything crazy from folks. So you could definitely use either a freelance developer or if you're a software company, your own developer team to help you write these things and get them up and running. There might be a couple things here and there where they need to learn a little bit about how HubSpot works, but for the most part, they're just writing a very common code language with typical kind of code architecture. So we're not asking for anything crazy, and that can help out here. Cool. So that's Ops Pro, all about automation, all about process, all about making sure that teams can do their job a little bit better and a little bit easier. Operations Hub Enterprise, though, kind of takes it to the final stage here. We've talked about platform, so connecting systems. We've talked about process automation. Enterprise is reporting. We want to make sure that it's easy for everybody to get the insights they need, the insights they deserve out of the CRM. And we do that with a tool primarily called data sets. And if you haven't learned or heard about data sets yet, it does two really, really cool things for customers and for users. So, number one, it's intended to make it easier for the average HubSpot report user to build reports. So, we want to make reporting more accessible and we want to ideally deflect questions away from HubSpot admins, HubSpot operations folks, data analysts. So, if you're the point person, if you're always the one getting questions from your team about reporting or whatever it is in HubSpot, we're trying to address that with data sets and make reporting a little bit easier. So it's going to be easier, but it's also going to be more powerful. So if I can steal, I think it's Sales Hub's tagline is like powerful or easy, pick two. That's what we're doing with data sets. So data sets also unlocks the ability to create advanced calculations in reports and just customize the data a little bit more before you build it into a report. So to make it easier to report, so that first use case, you can kind of see here, I've highlighted it in orange and dropped a giant emoji on it for emphasis. But um, when I build a data set, like say I'm a data analyst or just the HubSpot admin, and I know what my team is going to need to build into their reports every month or every week or whatever it might be, I would build a data set, and that data set exists as like a link or like a hot link even into the report builder, where they are going to be dropped directly onto this screen with, in this case, just like 7 properties and data set fields that I know that they need. So they did not have to choose the objects, they didn't have to choose the fields, they didn't have to apply any filters or anything like that to get to this point. So it just gives them like a jumping off point. Think of it like HelloFresh for reporting, or I think the metaphor I heard yesterday was like Spotify for reporting, like if it's a playlist maybe. So I don't have to go in there and find all these artists myself. Somebody just like curated this for me and I can customize it a little bit afterwards, but I've got a really good starting point just for the music I want to listen to. So making it easier for folks to access reporting inside HubSpot. But like I mentioned, we also added a bunch of power under the hood. So the biggest thing that we've done with data sets is we've enabled the creation of custom calculated fields. And I should have made this screenshot a little bit bigger, but you all can see here on the right side of that screenshot, there is a formula builder. So what we're doing here, our main goal, Steven, the product manager, has said his goal was to drag as many users out of Excel and out of Google Sheets as possible and bring them into this tool. So what we have is a library of formulas and functions that you can use to create these custom calculations that exist in reports. And the one that I built here as an example is super simple, where I'm multiplying the amount of a deal by 12 to convert maybe from monthly revenue to annual revenue. But you can do tons of other stuff. We have, again, like a library of formulas and functions that you can lean on. We have the ability to do conditional logic now within data sets. So if we want to calculate things that might vary based on different parameters, like a commission or like a lead score or something like that, even, we can do that. And we can use data sets to create any kind of custom KPIs or metrics or calculations that we want to build into our reports. We can also do simpler things, like if we just want to customize the name of a field that like how it appears in the report, we can do that now, which we hadn't been able to do in the past, and we knew that that was a pain point. So if I wanted to like change like right here, like deal owner to maybe sales rep, to kind of change it from the HubSpot lingo over to like how you all might refer to that property, we can do that, and it doesn't change the name of the property. It doesn't change anything in the CRM or break anything else. We're just changing how the report or how it appears in a report down the line. On top of that, though, just to double down on this kind of like easier reporting use case where I've streamlined what users can see, when you create the data set, you're pre-selecting what fields and what properties and what filters are on that report to begin with. So it's almost like when you give a user a dashboard of all the reports they should be looking at. Some folks want to go a level deeper and create their own custom reports, but they don't want to have to find all the data. So with the data set, I'm just saying, hey, here are all the ingredients I'm packing up into this HelloFresh box, or here are all the songs on my chill indie rock playlist that I know someone wants to listen to. And then they can take it from there and just run with that box or run with that playlist. Any questions about data sets or reporting or how Operations Hub adds power there?
Doesn't look like it. I think we're good. So you mentioned that was enterprise. That was enterprise, right? You were able to do
Correct.
that.
Yes.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I mentioned a couple use cases. We've got a library that is like hot off the press as of, I think, a week ago. So you all might be some of the first people to see that. I just dropped it in the chat, but those are a bunch of formulas that you can use within data sets. We've seen folks use those formulas to calculate variable commissions for reps, custom engagement scores for like contacts or companies, or blending contact and company data. If we want to say, hey, how many email opens plus the industry, like 5 points for tech versus 10 points for manufacturing, we can do that. We have a date diff formula that allows you to calculate the difference in days or months or even weeks between two dates in the CRM. So we can actually customize like time to blank type of metrics. We can concatenate text fields, all kinds of cool stuff is possible with data sets. On top of that, the easier reporting angle, we've seen folks use that. They built data sets for campaigns. They have deals, monthly sales deals data sets. Like if they know sales managers want to build the same types of reports every week, every month, or sales leaders want to look at the same thing, they can build it for that. And data sets work really well when you have multiple teams working in the CRM. So like a marketing team might not want to see the sales team stuff or vice versa. We can build different data sets for those two teams and just kind of put the blinders on and have everybody get a good, clean view of the data that matters to them. Last feature I'll talk about before we open it up for Q&A. This is an enterprise as well, the Snowflake Data Share. And this is basically a fancy name for an integration with the cloud data warehouse Snowflake. So if you aren't familiar with Snowflake, it's a cloud data warehouse where folks will use that to basically pull in or aggregate a bunch of data from their front office and back office systems like ERP, finance, accounting, CRM, of course, like whatever they're using, they can pull data into Snowflake. They can do a bunch of fancy magic data management stuff that I don't understand to combine all that data to pull it together. And then typically they'll connect it to like a reporting platform, something like Looker, maybe something like that for reporting. So now with Operations Enterprise, we have the ability to actually fit HubSpot into that flow and push data one way from HubSpot over to Snowflake, so customers can just keep or users can just keep their HubSpot data in step with whatever else is happening in their data flow. I'm excited for the future of Operations Hub. I kind of talked about what's available now. we're doubling down in a couple key areas. So of course with data sync, we're going to push and always add more integrations. We have a huge to-do list of integrations based on like customer asks and priority. So we're going to add more integrations, and we're going to add more syncable data types. So more objects, things like that are going to be available to sync. We're also going to improve reporting and data sets. We're going to continue to add functions to that library. We're going to add different types of calculations you can run. We're going to add tons of power and ease of use as well to reporting. We're also going to make automation triggers a lot more powerful. So folks have told us, hey, I'm a little bit limited with like this kind of radio button list or this like criteria list here. Can I customize that? We've heard that. That's something that we're working on and we're excited for. We're also going to continue to add power within workflows. So we're going to add actions that allow for better access to data. That I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to say, but I'm very excited for how much we'll be able to move data around between objects within workflows. And the thing I'm most excited for that some of you all may have heard about, because we have some features that are available now and kind of in beta, we're making a huge investment around data quality and data management. So we've already released a bunch of cool features that help out with import and import validation. We have some data quality features going into beta very, very soon that you'll probably hear about. But we want to make it easy for folks to identify bad data in their CRMs, clean it up. And we also want to make it easier for folks to prevent bad data from being created in the first place. So I think these are some really cool features, like the 30-second roadmap pitch here. But we're excited to make investments around automation and data cleanup specifically here over the next like 6 to 8 months. That's all I had. That's like the kind of, I think, 35-minute rundown on Operations Hub. So I'm happy to answer any questions you all have or any feedback you all have on Operations Hub. Yeah, that's it for my slide. So I will stop sharing.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Nick. We'll open it up then. If anybody wants to jump off mute or just post in the chat, we can take a look. One thing just to kick off here, if someone wanted to start off and just test out the free Ops Hub, is the process is just going back to the App Store? Is that really the way that they should start that? Is go to the App Store and look for that integration that they want to sync the data back and forth?
Yeah. So if you want to use data sync, it's going to be the best option to integrate with the app. So if you were even to go into the marketplace and search for like Google Contacts, for example, or MailChimp, it's going to come up and it's going to say built by HubSpot and be a data sync app. But we also have, and I'll drop this in the chat here. There's a filter for data sync apps in the marketplace. So I said 107 earlier, we have 106, but that's all the different data sync connectors. If you click on any of those, it's also going to tell you like what data syncs back and forth for free versus what you might have to pay for. And it tells you also what objects sync between each platform.
Perfect. Brian want to know where he could find more information about HubSpot blocks. Do it with us.
Yeah, let me see if I can dig that up. I think we have a services page. It might be kind of buried. I will try to dig it up, but you could ask your point of contact, like at the CSM or CST or whoever you work with typically, and they can direct you to the right place.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll include these links as well and on our page with the video and everything after the fact. And then one other question, Nick. So where could people learn more? Just learn more about Ops Hub in general. Is there anything on Academy or study groups and community? Like do you have special?
Yeah, so we do have a quick Academy run through, and I can dig that link up and share it with you for a follow up maybe with the crowd. And we do have a bunch of product pages as well. So if you were to navigate to any of these tools in app, they're going to link you off to all of our resources. We have knowledge base docs, we have explainer videos. So that would be a great way to learn about Operations Hub as well.
Perfect. All right. Any other questions or anything for Nick here before we jump off? I think that was an awesome rundown. I think a lot of great use cases, and I think having the data set formula links and everything else is going to be probably the first place you should start. Just look at that to give you ideas of how to get the most out of it and bring back to your team.
Yep, totally agree. Also here for feedback too. You've got somebody on the product team just sitting here with a headset on. So if no one has questions about Ops Hub and they want to give feedback, I'm here for that too. But I appreciate the time today. This has been great.
Perfect. All right, looks like we don't. I think we can wrap up here. So just thank you again, Nick. Obviously, that was awesome. That was a great wrap up. Nick's information and links will all be in the show notes and everything. And then just for our next event, like I said, we'll send a save the date out for this upcoming event in fall. And then this week, we'll send out the links to these slides and the recording, just so everybody has those and can share them with your team. But thank you again, Nick. Hope everybody has a great rest of the week and enjoy the summer.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you.